Hi, good evening, everyone. It's me, your host Dania Hussain, for Impactor Tales today. Impactor Trails is a platform where we share experience with visionary leaders and change makers. And today with us, we have a very special guest who is Mr. Amarjeet Singh. So, Mr. Amarjeet is the head of compliance at a leading exchange in UAE, which is approved by the central bank. He has also led transformative initiative in EML, CFT, and other sanction compliances. So he's a certified CAMS, CFE, and ICA holder, showcasing his international credentials. So, Mr. Amarjeet is also pursuing his doctorate in financial crime compliance from the Dunster Business School of Switzerland. So, let's welcome Mr. Amarjeet and thank you so much for joining us today on Impactra Tales. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure to have you on the stage and discussing with you about my career goals.
So let's discover the guardian of trust inside financial compliance with Mr. Amarjeet Singh. So, sir, we would like to know, how did your journey began?
Actually, it's a very long journey. When I completed my master's in business administration MBA from Bangalore University, I got first campus placement in one of the biggest international bank, which is a Deutsche Bank. And I started my career from banking operations. And when I understood at how the operation works, how the controls are working fine, and then I started, understanding the level of controls which are there in the banks. So I took up the role for the KYC and the sanction screening as a compliance analyst there. So I got a very good role in when I was in Deutsche Bank. So from there, I started my journey to understand the complications, to understand the financial crime compliance, what happens, how it works, how the controls are working in the institutions, what is financial crime, how it's happening in the world. So that gave me very fascinating answers when I started looking into it, when I got very deep into that to understanding the financial crime compliance. And this is how I started my career. Then I started pursuing some kind of courses to understand what is AML compliance, what is financial crime compliance, how it works, how can I improve my knowledge in the financial crime compliance. So slowly, I took up the different senior manager roles in different international banks. I worked in Société Bank, which is one of the France bank. Then I worked in HSBC Bank in a senior manager level position. And then I moved to the Sharaf, and currently I'm heading the head of compliance role in Sharaf, where I'm responsible to ensure that the central bank of regulations, laws are well implemented in the institution. So this is how I started, began my career in compliance.
Mr. Amarjeet, what inspired to specialize in such a critical and evolving domain like AML and CFT compliance?
There are two things in that. The first thing is that the human touch, and the second touch thing is about intellectual challenge. Uh, as you know, that the financial crime compliance is mostly involving the corruption, the fraud, the money laundering, the terrorist financing, and everything. So this was very important part which we have to take care, which we have to prevent our financial institutions, our company, our country from this kind of crimes and these
Right.
financial crimes what we have. And second thing is that as we know that the laws, the regulations of the country or of the AML compliance is always changing. It's always evolving and every time. So we have to always be up to date with the new regulations, with the FATF recommendations, or with any international guidelines to ensure that you understand what is happening around the world and ensure that you put a proper control for each and every risk which you identified or which is involving risk.
Also, can you share some key milestones and turning points, in your journey that shaped your leadership in compliance?
I think it's a very fantastic question. As I mentioned that I started my career from Deutsche Bank, which is a German bank, and then I moved to Society General Bank, which is again
Yes.
a French, and then HSBC Bank. So in last the 15 years of time frame, what I've spent in the top international banks, It was a really amazing time, this is what I would say. During that time, I learned a lot of things about the financial, about the crime, about the money laundering, about everything. And what I did apart from that, I also wrote one book, The Money Trail, on financial crime compliance, which was one of the leading book in the region, I would say. I launched this book last in the month of October, which is currently available on Amazon and was published around the world. And the response what I got from the book is very, very great. I got a lot of recensions on this book,
Yeah.
and it was featured and published in most of the regional and international newspapers. So I think that was one of the turning point. This is what I would say, or we can say it's kind of achievement.
Yeah.
I'm also currently working on many research papers.
Yes.
And there are around 5 research papers of mine which got recently been published in the global platform in US, and a few more are going to come, which will also be a part of my PhD thesis.
As the head of compliance at the Sharaf Exchange, what have been some of the most impactful initiatives in strengthening AML CFT frameworks?
Uh, for me, it is three things. It is your technology, it is your people, and the last one it is the training. Okay,
Yeah.
so these three plays a very, very important role when you are, leading any the major role in any of the financial institution. So as a head of compliance in Sharaf Exchange, I did a lot of transformations in terms of technology. We have got a new systems which got AI kind of systems for us, which really help us in making our transaction screening, monitoring, and risk rating very, very different. Apart from that, we have spent a lot of initiatives to train our compliance teams, to train our branch staffs. We have provided a lot of training sessions, lot of ad hoc requests and everything to make them ensure that they know what they are doing it actually, and they should get up to date with all their technologies, with all the risks, what is emerging risks are there. And the third thing, what I would say is, which is about your, the framework, which plays a very, very important role. Or we can also say it's the tone from the top, how your board level are supporting you, the compliance initiatives and everything. So it says like, the compliance starts from it's not starting from the down, it starts from the top. When the top level is always supporting you, it can goes down to the lower level.
So, how do you balance regulatory requirement with business growth and operational efficiency?
This is all by treating as compliance as a business enabler, not an obstacles. What we have observed at many of the institutions, what happens that the business field team feels like the compliance is always an obstacle into the
Yeah.
business, but that is not exactly the case. They need to understand the compliance. So that only happens when the business team understand what the compliance is
Yeah.
and what is the requirement of the compliance. So the business and compliance should both work together. So it's like that we need to walk the talk. We need to walk the talk for compliance in the business. So when the business level understand what is compliance, it gets very easy for us to manage the compliance and to manage the business as well.
So, what role does leadership play in building a strong culture of compliance with financial institutions?
I would say the leadership sets a tone from the top.
Yeah.
Okay, if the leadership, uh, you know, uh, as we know that the leadership plays a very, very important role. They are our governance part. So if your governance is very, very strong, definitely you will able to manage your compliance. So it's not about checklist option. It is about to understand each level of defense. Like suppose we have three level of defense: level defense one, defense two, defense three. So all these three should understand the requirement. Okay, and the command should come from the top. If your leadership has a command on the top, then it goes from top to the bottom.
Also, with your global exposure, how would you compare the compliance landscape in the UAE compared to other international markets?
I would say the UE has evolved rapidly. In last few years, we have seen a rapid and drastic
Yes.
change in the terms of the involvement in the laws, the
Yeah.
regulation. That it has really has got a. We have seen a change in that,
Yeah.
especially after the fact of evaluation. There's a lot of laws, regulation, the guidelines issued by the Central Bank of the UAE, the
Yes.
different regulators in the region. So the only thing is that it's a responsibility of the compliance officer, the head of compliance HODs, to understand those kind of regulations and ensure that they are well implemented in our organization. Apart from what I would say here, uh, the change what we have seen in the UAE region, it's really a tremendous change, because the UAE is a hub. It's a business hub. It is one of the largest business hub here.
Yes.
We have a lot of business here. We have a shipping. We have a precious metal and stones business. We have real estate. We have a diamond and precious metal and stone businesses here. So for them, initially, if you ask me, down the line 5 or 10 years before, there was no proper controls or framework for them. But now we can see we have a DNFPBs which has a proper be regulated. They have to follow the AML compliance regulation guidelines and everything. They as per the whatever regulation says that. So what I would say that it has been drastically changed, and now we have a lot of I would say material available to go through and understand the requirement and laws and regulations of the Central Bank of the UAE.
How do you see technology, AI, machine learning, RegTech transforming compliance operation in the next few years?
Um, what I see, AI in RegTech is really a game changer. Okay, there are a lot of AI tools are available, AI machines are available, AI softwares are available, which compliance professionals can use it. Okay, in terms of their onboarding of the customer,
Yeah.
in terms of transaction monitoring, in terms of sanction screening, which makes your life easier. And this will definitely help the institutions to reduce the resource manpower. It will help the institutions to ensure that they are at par with the regulations. It helps the institutions to ensure that they don't get a or high number of false positives and everything. So I would say that this is really a game changer for all the institutions or for everyone, and they must use the AI technology to ensure that they are get implemented well in their institutions.
What are the biggest challenges, the compliance professionals they face today in combating financial crime?
What I would say, there are three important things which are there. One is data load. Okay,
Yeah.
we have too much of data. We
Yeah.
have too much of data, but we don't know how to use the data.
Yes.
We don't know how to do the analytics of the data. Okay, this is a very very important challenge. What I can see. The second thing, what I can see, the evolving regulations. As I mentioned before, that lot of regulations, lot of laws, regulation notices are coming from the regulator, from the international bodies. So we have to, as a compliance professional, we have to always ensure that we update ourselves, okay, with those regulations. Third thing, what I would see, a resource challenge. Okay, finding a professional compliance in the market is really a challenging job currently, because you will find the resources, not a problem. You will find a man, persons who has some knowledge about the compliance, but he will not be able to have a technical knowledge about the compliance. So compliance is not only to, uh, you know, to understand what is like, understanding the making money black to white. That is only not, we need to understand as in as per AML compliance, but it's a lot of things. What we need to understand what AML compliance is and how it is impacting you and your institution. So if you understand these three things, you will definitely become a compliance leader in your institution.
How important is the cross border collaboration between the regulators and financial institutions in fighting global financial crimes?
I would say it is absolutely essential. Collaboration with cross-border international FIUs or international institutions is very, very important. So what happened that when we have a support, or when any one FIU has a support of other regions, the case becomes very easy. So we can able to understand what is happening in the case. So this plays a very, very important role. It just says Egmont, if you read about the Egmont guidelines, it also says that collaboration plays a very, very important role in fighting the crime. So it's like we have seen a many, many cases. Even in my life, I have seen a many, many cases. When I was working in previous international organizations, we have seen that the people they do the crime in UAE and they just run away with in their country. So because of lack of collaboration, lack of treaty signed with other institutions or other country, it gets very difficult to understand what is happening in their side. So what I would see that collaboration plays a very, very important role, and that will help to fight the financial crime.
So education, certification, and professional growth. You hold several prestigious certifications like CAMS, CFE, ICA, and now you're pursuing a doctorate in the financial crime compliance. So, what drives your continuous learning?
It's about curiosity, and I would say it's a responsibility I would feel, because each certification I do, I get to know about new things about what is happening. That
Yeah.
take an example of the ACAMS, which was the first certification what I did. I got to know what is happening around the world, what is financial crime, what is the predicate crimes, and how it's not about transacting the funds, is about to understand what is happening behind the transacting the funds.
Yeah.
And this is how I got curiosity to do more and more certifications, to get involved into the compliance more, understand what is happening around the world. Um, Recently, I started pursuing my doctorate, which I'm currently doing it. This is just to become an expert in the financial crime compliance. So, yeah, this is all about, I always try to learn something new in
Yes.
my life.
So, how the certifications have shaped your approach towards compliance, leadership, and decision making?
See, for me, the compliance is not a checklist or a tick box option.
Yeah.
For me, the compliance is to understand what actually the compliance is. So for me, these certifications have helped me to make my fundamental strong. What happens that only certification will not help you until unless you don't practically do your work done. So what happens that my approach always remains that I do the certification, I made my fundamentals strong, and then I go and implement those fundamentals in my day-to-day activities. So this is how I made my fundamentals very, very strong, by putting those fundamentals, or I would say what I learned from the book, into my practical life. So if you don't implement it, or if you don't implement in your day-to-day life, you will not understand how does it actually gonna work in that. So whatever certification we should do, we should always try to get this done and implement in our day-to-day life. That would definitely help us to understand and make it more professional in terms of your work.
So, what advice would you give to the young professionals, who are trying to make a career in the compliance or financial crime prevention?
Um, I would advise that start with curiosity. Okay, invest in yourself.
Yes.
We always invest in other things, but
Yeah.
we don't invest ourselves. We have to invest in ourselves. We have to, we need to understand your interest first. Okay, and based on that, you must ensure that you go do some certifications. Uh, you know, um, Understand what is happening around the world, and important thing is that try to implement in your day-to-day life, whether it is your professional life or it is your personal life. I have seen many of the people who go for some of the motivational classes. Okay, the
Yeah,
motivation,
yeah.
they do some motivational classes and everything, and during 1 hour of time in the class they only understand, okay, we'll do this, we'll do that. Once they're out of the class, they don't remember anything. The most important thing is that whatever you learn, make sure you implement in your day-to-day life. And second important thing, you have to invest. You have to definitely invest on you, then only you can grow in your life.
And that compliance is not just about rules, but it's also about ethics and trust. How do you instill ethical awareness across teams and organizations?
That is by linking compliance with human stories. So we know that what is compliance is that. So what happens that when we take the trainings to the branch staff or to my team and everything, so we always try to link those examples, give those examples which is linked to their, with a human touch. I just give you an example here. Take an example of money laundering. Okay,
Yeah.
now whenever anybody does the money laundering, and what happens to that? Okay, it affects the whole country.
Yeah.
It affects the institution, affects the whole country. Same an example for terrorism financing. So when any person or anyone involved in any of those terrorist financing, or they transact any transaction or approve any transaction related to the terrorist financing, what will the impact of that? So that will only make him, you have to make them understand the impact of each and everything, whether it is your work or it is your personal life. When you understand the impact, or even understand linking the impact with yourself, you will able to make them understand well.
So, in your opinion, what defines a successful compliance leader today? Is it technical expertise, emotional intelligence, or ethical courage?
Uh, I would choose ethical courage, because that plays a very, very important role. As a
Yeah.
compliance professional, you must be ethical towards you, towards the company, and towards yourself.
Okay, so what's your personal philosophy or guiding principle, when making tough compliance decision under pressure?
Uh, for me, my principle is simple. Okay,
Yeah.
is that you have to, be ethical and be true to yourself. Okay, so as a leader, as a compliance professional, definitely you get a lot of challenge in day-to-day life. You have a pressure from the regulator, you have a pressure from the business. So when you understand the both the things and make the business understand what the regulator are saying, and how we can implement those regulations in the business, and ensure that business as well as the uh, regulation works together. So that makes their life very, very easy. So for me, it's very, very simple. We always believe on the integrity and the courageousness. Yeah.
So, how do you see the future of financial compliance evolving in the UAE and globally over the next decade?
What I would say, we are moving to the smarter and data-driven compliance. It's not like a checklist or a checkbook anymore. Uh, we have seen recently in the past 2 3 years, what we have seen, the regulators, when they come for the audit, they don't just come with a checklist. They always ask what data you have. Okay, how you understand your customers well. Do you have a data? You know how your customers are behaving. Do you have a behavioral ethicals of your customer? So that means it's more about data driven. So we also need to understand that as a compliance professional, we have to spend more time on understanding your customers, understanding the behavior of the customers, and ensure that we put a proper controls on those areas which requires a more focused things. Okay, or those areas where you see risk-based approach we have to implement in our organizations, or we need to have a policies and procedures which is being approved by your board of directors, and what risk they are going to take in that. You can have your risk appetite policies, statements, and all, and up to certain limit, or up to certain threshold only you can take a risk. So I think these kind of things we can implement, which will help the companies and the institution very well.
Also, finally, what message would you like to share with our listeners about the importance of integrity and compliance in the modern financial world?
What I would say, that integrity is an invisible currency in the financial world.
Yeah.
We must understand the financial system. We must understand the risk of money laundering. We must understand the risk of terrorist financing, which plays a very, very important role. It is not the part of the only compliance professional to understand what is the how the financial system can be harmed. It is a responsibility for each and everyone to understand the financial system and how it works. So by the help of this, they can able to protect the country, they can able to protect the institution, and this is how the countries grow, day by day, as compared to the others.
So, thank you so much, Mr. Amarjeet. With this, we end our session for today for Impactra Tales. And Mr. Amarjeet, thank you so much for joining us today. And we wish you all the best for all your future endeavors. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. It was a very, very great talking to you, and thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. And with this, we end our session for today for Impactor Tales. And this is your host, Zania Hussain, signing off for today. Thank you.